Woke up before my alarm because my heart was already awake. For the first time in many years, I felt like everything in my life had finally fallen into place. Today was not just another day. Today was the day I had dreamed about since the moment Emily held my hand and promised me that we would build a life together. After 6 years of love, struggles, arguments, laughter, and countless memories, we were finally going to the registry office to make our relationship official. I sat on the edge of my bed for a few seconds, just staring at the sunlight coming through the window. "Is this really happening?" I whispered. A smile slowly appeared on my face. "Yes, Ethan, this is your day." I walked toward the small wooden table near my bed and carefully picked up the velvet box I had kept safe for years. My fingers trembled slightly as I opened it. Inside were my mother's wedding rings. Those rings were more than just jewelry. They were the last precious memory I had of her love and the marriage she always wanted me to experience. I gently touched the ring and remembered her voice. "One day, Ethan, you will find someone who chooses you every single day." I swallowed the emotion in my throat. "Mom, I wish you were here today," I whispered. "I wish you could see the woman I chose." I closed my eyes for a moment. "I promise I will take care of her. I promise I will protect our marriage." I believed every word I said. I believed Emily was my forever. I put on my navy blue suit, the same one Emily loved when she first saw me wearing it. She once smiled and said, "Ethan, you look like the man I want to spend my whole life with." Those words stayed with me. I looked into the mirror and adjusted my tie. Today, I finally become her husband. I picked up the ring box and placed it carefully inside my pocket. Before leaving, I checked my phone. No new messages from Emily yet. I smiled because I knew she was probably getting ready too. I imagined her walkie. I reached the registry office earlier than the scheduled time because I was too excited to wait. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted the first moment of our marriage to be something we would remember forever. I stood near the entrance, holding the small velvet ring box in my pocket. Every few minutes, I checked the time on my watch. "Emily is always late," I said to myself with a small smile. Some things never change. I remembered all the times she made me wait before our dates. She would always arrive with an apology and a beautiful smile. "Ethan, don't be angry. You know I am worth waiting for." And I always laughed. "Yes, Emily, you are." Because when you love someone deeply, waiting never feels like a burden. The registry office was quiet. A few couples sat nearby, holding hands and talking about their futures. Seeing them made me smile, because I believed I was about to start the same journey. I touched the ring box again. "Today, everything changes," I whispered. I imagined Emily walking through those doors wearing the dress she had chosen. I imagined her looking at me with the same eyes that once made me believe I was the luckiest man alive. My phone stayed silent. I sent her a message. "Are you close?" "I'm already here." I waited. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Still nothing. A small feeling of worry started growing inside me, but I pushed it away. "No, she wouldn't do that," I whispered. Emily was the woman who cried when I proposed. The woman who promised she would stand beside me no matter what happened. I looked down at my hands and remembered everything we had survived together. The difficult years, the financial struggles, the moments when we had almost given up. I had always believed those struggles made our relationship stronger. I never thought they were preparing me for the moment she would walk away. I looked toward the entrance again. Then the doors slowly opened. My heart lifted. "Emily, but T." The moment I saw Emily standing beside Damien, everything around me seemed to slow down. The voices in the registry office became distant. The people around me became blurry. All I could see was the woman I loved walking toward me with another man beside her. I stared at her, waiting for her to smile and tell me this was some kind of misunderstanding. But she didn't. "Emily," I said quietly, "what is happening?" She stopped a few steps away from me. "Ethan, we need to talk." Those words scared me more than anything else, because I knew those were not the words of someone coming to celebrate. They were the words of someone coming to destroy something. I looked at Damien. "Why is he here?" Damien looked completely comfortable, like he belonged there, like he was not standing in the middle of my wedding day. Emily took a deep breath. I made a decision. My heart started beating faster. A decision? She nodded. Yes. I forced myself to smile. Emily, please don't do this. Today is supposed to be our day. She looked away for a moment. Then she said the words that changed everything. I'm not marrying you today. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath my feet. What? The question came out before I could stop it. Emily looked directly at me. I'm choosing Damien. For a few seconds, I could not understand what she had said. My mind kept repeating the same words. Choosing Damien. Not me. Damien. The man who was standing beside her. The man who was my boss. The man who had everything I didn't. I looked at Emily and searched her face for any sign that she was joking. There was nothing. After 6 years? I asked. Her expression became colder. Ethan, please don't make this harder than it already is. I laughed softly, but there was no happiness in that laugh. Harder. I looked around the room. Emily, I came here to marry you. She stayed silent. I brought my mother's wedding rings. I touched the pocket where I stood there silently, trying to understand how my entire future had changed in just a few seconds. The woman who once held my hand through every difficult moment was now standing beside another man and telling me she had chosen a different life. I looked at Emily. Why? I asked. My voice was quieter than I expected. Why now? Why on the day we were supposed to get married? Emily sighed. Because I finally accepted the truth. What truth? She looked at me without emotion. That I want more from life. I felt a sharp pain in my chest. More. She nodded. Yes, Ethan. More. I looked around the room. The registry workers were pretending not to listen, but I could see the sadness in their eyes. I lowered my voice. Are you saying I was not enough? Emily did not answer immediately. That silence hurt more than any words. Then she said, You are a good person, Ethan. But being a good person is not everything. Then what is everything? She glanced at Damien. Success. Security. A better future. I followed her eyes. So this is about him? Emily remained quiet. Damien finally spoke. Ethan, you need to understand. Emily made a choice that benefits her future. I looked at him. Her future? I stepped closer. You mean the future you are offering her? Damien smiled slightly. I can give her things you cannot. Those words felt like a knife. I knew Damien had money. I knew he had power. But hearing him say it so confidently made something inside me break. Emily looked at me. I don't want to struggle forever. I shook my head slowly. We struggled together because we were building something. She replied, Maybe you were building something. I was waiting for something better. I could barely believe what I was hearing. Waiting. I laughed painfully. Emily, do you remember when I worked 2 jobs just so we could save for our apartment? She looked away. Do you remember when you were sick and I stay? I looked at Emily one last time, hoping that somewhere inside her there was still the woman who promised to stay with me forever. The woman who used to call me her home. The woman who once said she did not care about money, status, or luxury. But the person standing in front of me felt like a stranger. I slowly took the ring box out of my pocket and held it in my hand. Emily, I need to ask you something. She looked at me. What? Was any of it real? Her expression changed slightly. What do you mean? I swallowed the pain in my throat. Those 6 years. The promises. The nights we talked about our future. Did any of that mean something to you? For a moment, she looked uncomfortable. Then she said, Of course it meant something. I shook my head. If it did, you wouldn't be standing here with him. She had no answer. Damien looked impatient. Emily, we should leave. I looked at him. You really can't wait, can you? He smiled. Ethan, this is not personal. This is life. I stared at him. No, this is exactly personal. I looked back at Emily. You chose him because he can give you a bigger house, a better car, and a more expensive lifestyle. She frowned. You don't understand. Then explain it. She stayed quiet. I already knew the answer. The registry office became completely silent. Even strangers watching us stopped whispering. Emily reached into her bag and took out my engagement ring. I think you should take this back. She placed it in my hand. The same ring she once wore proudly. The same ring I saved months to buy. I closed my fingers around it. I never imagined I would get this back from you on our wedding day. Emily looked away. I'm sorry. I wanted those words to comfort me. They didn't. Because sorry could not erase what happened. Sorry could not bring back my trust. Sorry could not return the future I imagined. I looked at her and forced myself to stay calm. I hope you find what URL. After leaving the registry office, I simply kept moving one step after another, as if stopping would force me to accept what had happened. The city around me was alive with traffic, conversations, and people rushing toward places that suddenly seemed far more important than anything in my own life. My world had stopped. Everyone else's kept moving. The small velvet ring box felt unbelievably heavy inside my hand. I opened it for a brief moment. My mother's wedding rings reflected the gray afternoon light. A painful smile crossed my face. "I am sorry, Mom," he whispered. I couldn't do it. A lump formed in my throat. I really believed today would be the happiest day of my life. Instead, I had watched the woman I loved choose another man without even looking back. Emily's voice refused to leave my head. "You'll thank me one day." I laughed bitterly. "Thank you." My voice echoed quietly as I walked. How could I ever thank you for destroying 6 years of my life? People passed beside me, carrying shopping bags, talking on their phones, laughing with friends, completely unaware that only a few streets away someone's future had collapsed. I looked down at the engagement ring again. I should have given this to you today. Instead, it was still lying inside the box, exactly where it had been this morning. Untouched, unwanted, just like me. The thought made my chest tighten. For the first time in years, I questioned everything. Was any of it real? I remembered our first apartment, the cheap furniture, the instant noodles we ate when money was tight, the late nights when Emily promised me that one day none of those struggles would matter because we would face everything together. "I'll always choose you," she had said. I had believed every single word. Now I wondered if she had ever believed them herself. Without realizing it, my feet carried me across several busy intersections until I found myself standing in front of the old city coup. Sophia didn't ask another question right away. She simply looked at me, not with pity, not with curiosity, just quiet concern. After a long silence, she spoke softly. "You're shaking." I looked down at my hands. I didn't even notice. She noticed the velvet ring box I was still holding. "You were getting married today, weren't you?" I closed my eyes for a moment. I was supposed to. Her expression slowly changed. "Oh." She didn't need any more explanation. She had already understood. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I forced a weak smile. "Don't be." She frowned. "Why shouldn't I be?" "Because everyone keeps saying they're sorry." I looked toward the courthouse doors. But nothing changes. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The afternoon breeze carried the sound of distant traffic through the city. Finally, Sophia broke the silence. "Would you like some coffee?" I laughed without humor. "Do I really look like someone who wants coffee?" "No." She smiled gently. "You look like someone who shouldn't be alone." Those words reached a place inside me that I had been trying to hide all day. I looked at her. "You always were honest." She smiled faintly. "And you always try to hide your feelings." I shook my head. "I guess I failed today." "No," she replied quietly. "I think today your heart was simply too heavy." I looked away before she could see my eyes filling with tears again. I don't even know how to explain what happened. You don't have to explain everything at once. She pointed toward a small cafe across the street. "Just come sit with me." I hesitated. "I don't want to ruin your afternoon." She laughed softly. My afternoon wasn't exciting anyway. I looked at her for a few seconds. "You really don't mind?" She shook her head. "Not even a little." Something about her voice felt safe. For the first time since I walked out of the registry office, I didn't feel completely alone. We crossed the street. The waitress placed 2 steaming cups of coffee on the table before quietly walking away. For several seconds, neither Sophia nor I touched our drinks. She gently wrapped both hands around her coffee cup and looked out the rain-covered window. "I never thought we'd meet like this," she said. I let out a quiet laugh. "I always imagined we'd run into each other at some college reunion." She smiled. "Instead, life chose a coffee shop after your wedding collapsed." "My wedding didn't just collapse," I replied. "It disappeared before it even began." Sophia slowly nodded. "I understand that feeling better than you think." I looked up. "What do you mean?" She stayed silent for a moment before speaking again. "Do you remember Michael?" I searched my memory. The engineering student? She nodded. We dated for almost 5 years. I remember. Everyone thought you'd get married. So did I. Her voice became softer. We planned everything. I felt my chest tighten. The venue, the invitations, the honeymoon, the house we wanted to buy. She gave a sad smile. I even picked out the flowers. Inspirational. What happened? She looked down at her coffee. The same thing that happened to you. I frowned. What do you mean? My fiancé left. The words hung between us. I could hardly believe what I had heard. He left you. She nodded slowly. 3 hours before our wedding. I stared at her in complete silence. He called me. She looked out the window again. I thought he was telling me he was on his way. Instead, he said he couldn't marry me. My heart sank. Sophia. She smiled sadly. He didn't even have the courage to tell me face to face. I couldn't find the right words. I'm so sorry. She laughed quietly. Funny. What is? Those were the exact words I said to myself every morning for months. I looked at her carefully. You never told anyone? I told P.O. Sophia answered the call and immediately put it on speaker for a moment before realizing how serious Grace sounded. Grace, slow down, she said. I can barely understand you. I watched the color slowly disappear from Sophia's face. What? She whispered. She listened without interrupting. No, that can't be right. Another long silence followed. She stood up from the table and walked a few steps toward the cafe window. I'll be there as soon as I can. She ended the call, but didn't move. I quietly stood beside her. Sophia. She took a deep breath. My grandfather's foundation is in trouble. I frowned. What happened? She looked at me. You remember how I told you he spent his entire life helping children? I nodded. He built schools, hospitals, and scholarship programs. My grandfather believed money only mattered if it changed lives. I could hear the pride in her voice. After he passed away, he left everything to the foundation. So what's wrong? She closed her eyes. A legal condition. What kind of condition? She laughed bitterly. The kind that sounds impossible. I stayed silent. She continued. My grandfather believed family should protect his legacy. I listened carefully. So he included a clause in his will. What clause? She looked directly into my eyes. If I'm not legally married before the inheritance hearing tomorrow morning. I felt my heartbeat slow. The foundation loses control of most of its assets. What? The money will be divided among distant relatives. She shook her head. People who never cared about him. People who only care about selling everything. Inspirational. They can actually do that. Unfortunately. She nodded. The will allows it. I looked at the worried expression on her face. So Grace wants to stop them. Exactly. Can she? Only if I satisfy the condition. I folded my arms. And the condition is marriage. She gave a small defeat. Stared at Sophia, waiting for her to smile and tell me she was joking. She never did. The silence between us grew heavier with every passing second. I finally cleared my throat. You're serious? She nodded slowly. I know how crazy it sounds. I let out a nervous laugh. Crazy. I leaned back in my chair. Sophia, I was supposed to marry someone else this morning. I know. And now you're asking me to marry you before tomorrow? I know. I rubbed my forehead. This has to be the strangest day of my life. She looked down. If you say no, I won't blame you. I don't want you to feel pressured. She stopped speaking. I noticed her hands trembling. I just can't let my grandfather's dream disappear. I quietly asked, what made his foundation so important? Her eyes filled with emotion. He spent 40 years building it. He paid for children to go to school. He built free medical clinics. He believed people should be remembered for the lives they change. She swallowed hard. If those relatives win tomorrow, they'll sell everything. The schools, the buildings, the land. They'll destroy his life's work in a single week. I could hear the pain in every word she spoke. She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't asking for love. She was asking for help. I looked down at my mother's wedding rings resting inside the velvet box. Only a few hours earlier, I had planned to place one of them on Emily's finger. Now fate was placing an impossible choice in front of me. Sophia spoke again. You don't have to answer immediately. I know you've already been through enough today. I looked into her eyes. What would this marriage mean? She answered honestly. It would be legal. We would protect the foundation. We would give ourselves time to heal. I won't ask you to pretend you're in love. I won't ask you for anything except honesty. Her answer surprised me. There were no lies. No manipulati. I kept looking at Sophia, hoping she would suddenly laugh and tell me she had made the strangest joke in history. She never laughed. Instead, she looked back at me with calm, steady eyes. There was fear in them. There was uncertainty, but there was no deception. The silence between us stretched for several long seconds. Finally, I spoke. You're really asking me to marry you? She nodded. Yes. I leaned back in my chair and rubbed my face with both hands. This morning, I walked into a registry office believing I was about to marry the woman I had loved for 6 years. I looked at her. Now, only a few hours later, another woman is asking me the same question. She lowered her eyes. I know how impossible this sounds. Impossible isn't even the right word. I laughed quietly. If someone had told me this story yesterday, I would have called them crazy. A faint smile appeared on her face. I probably would have agreed. For a brief moment, we both smiled. It wasn't because anything was funny. It was because neither of us knew how else to survive such an unbelievable day. I looked at the velvet ring box resting on the cafe table. My fingers slowly traced its edge. My mother gave me these rings before she passed away. Sophia remained silent, allowing me to continue. She told me. I swallowed the emotion rising in my throat. One day you'll place these on the hand of the woman who chooses you every single day. I closed my eyes. I truly believe that woman was Emily. Sophia spoke softly. You still love her? The question wasn't cruel. It was honest. I thought about it for a long moment before answering. I don't know. She looked surprised. I love the woman I believe she was. I stared through the cafe window as people hurried past under umbrellas. But the woman I met at the registry office today, I slowly shook my head. I don't even recognize her. Sophia quietly nodded. I understand. I looked. Neither of us spoke for nearly a minute. The quiet wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like two broken people standing at the edge of two completely different lives, wondering whether taking one impossible step together was less frightening than walking alone. I slowly reached for my coffee. It had already gone cold. I smiled weakly. Kind of fits today. Sophia looked at her cup. I guess neither of us noticed. I laughed quietly. No. The silence returned. Finally, I asked the question that had been sitting in my heart since she first made her proposal. Sophia, she looked at me. If we actually do this, what happens tomorrow? She took a slow breath. Tomorrow morning we appear before the attorney handling my grandfather's estate. And after that, we protect the foundation. And after that, she smiled gently. We figure life out one day at a time. I studied her face. You really haven't planned anything beyond tomorrow. She shook her head. I've been trying to save my grandfather's life's work. My own future stopped mattering a long time ago. Her words stayed with me. I knew exactly what that felt like. Only hours earlier, my future had disappeared inside a registry office. Now hers was hanging by a legal deadline. I leaned back in my chair. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask anything. Why didn't you marry someone else months ago after your fiancé left? She smiled sadly. Grace asked me the same question. And I couldn't. Because you still loved him? She slowly shook her head. No. Then why? Because I refused to use another person to fix my broken heart. Those words hit me harder than she probably realized. She looked directly into my eyes. I never wanted a fake marriage. I never wanted to wake up beside someone who felt trapped. I never wanted to build a relationship on lies. I quietly asked, so why ask me? She answered without hesitation. Because today I watched. I looked at Sophia's phone, then back in her eyes. Neither of us spoke. The message from Grace remained on the screen, almost as if time itself had stopped, waiting for my answer. I slowly exhaled. So, I said quietly, this is the moment. Sophia nodded. It is. She immediately added, but if your answer is no, I will understand. You don't owe me anything, Ethan. You don't owe my grandfather anything. You don't owe this foundation anything. Her voice remained calm, but I could hear the fear hidden beneath it. I smiled sadly. You know what surprises me the most? She tilted her head. What? You're still thinking about me? She looked confused. What do you mean? You've spent the last 20 minutes making sure I don't feel trapped. You've given me every chance to walk away. I laughed softly. Most people will be trying to convince me. She lowered her eyes. I don't want a husband who says yes because he feels guilty. I want someone who chooses freely. Those words stayed with me. Only a few hours earlier, the woman I planned to marry had chosen someone else because she believed money mattered more than loyalty. Now, another woman was standing in front of me, refusing to pressure me even though everything important in her life depended on my decision. The difference between them couldn't have been clearer. I reached into my pocket and took out the velvet box once again. My fingers rested on the lid for several seconds. I've been carrying these rings all day. Sophia quietly watched me. This morning, I thought they represented the future I had spent 6 years building. I smiled bitterly. Then Emily handed my engagement ring back to me. My voice became quieter. I thought these rings had lost their purpose. Sophia didn't interrupt. She simply listened. I slowly opened the box. The 2 wedding bands reflected the warm light inside the cafe. They belonged to my parents. I gently touched one. The moment the word left my mouth, neither of us moved. We simply stood there, staring at each other as if we were both trying to decide whether we had actually heard the same answer. Sophia blinked twice. Yes. I smiled nervously. You asked me if I would marry you. I did. My answer is yes. For a second, she covered her mouth with both hands. I wasn't expecting you to answer so quickly. I laughed softly. Neither was I. A tear rolled down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away. I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? I promised myself I wouldn't cry. You've had a difficult day too. She nodded. So have you. We both laughed quietly. Not because life had suddenly become easy, but because neither of us was standing alone anymore. Her phone rang again. She answered immediately. Grace. I heard Grace's voice through the speaker. Sophia, where are you? The attorney is waiting. Sophia looked at me before answering. I'm coming. Grace asked, did Ethan say no? Sophia smiled through her tears. No. There was complete silence. Then Grace almost shouted, wait, are you serious? Yes. He said yes. I heard Grace laugh with relief. Don't move. We'll be there in 5 minutes. The call ended. I looked at Sophia. So? She smiled. So? This is really happening. She nodded. It is. I picked up the velvet ring box and slipped it carefully back into my pocket. I never imagined I would be walking into a registry office twice on the same day. Sophia smiled gently. I never imagined I'd be walking in with someone who understood exactly how betrayal feels. We left the cafe together. The rain had finally stopped. Sunlight slowly pushed through the clouds. The streets looked completely different now. Only an hour earlier, every step had felt heavy. Now, I wasn't walking alone. As we reached the courthouse entrance, a black sedan stopped beside us. I followed Daniel and Grace into the courthouse while Sophia walked beside me. Neither of us said much. We didn't need to. Every step reminded me that only a few hours earlier I had entered another government building believing I was about to begin one future. Now I was walking toward a completely different one. Daniel stopped outside a small civil ceremony room. He looked at both of us. Before we go inside, I need to ask one question. Sophia nodded. Go ahead. He looked at me first. Ethan, are you entering this marriage of your own free will? I am. No one is forcing you. No. He turned to Sophia. And you? She answered without hesitation. Yes. Daniel smiled. Good. He opened the door. The room was simple. There were no flowers, no music, no family waiting with cameras, no celebration. Only a judge, a wooden desk, 2 chairs, and silence. The judge looked at us kindly. I've been informed that both of you understand the legal responsibilities of marriage. We do, Sophia answered. He looked at me. And you, Mr. Brooks? I understand. He nodded. Then let's begin. We stood side by side. I glanced at Sophia. She gave me a small, encouraging smile. Not the smile of someone pretending to be in love. The smile of someone grateful that she wasn't facing the hardest day of her life alone. The judge placed the documents before us. Read everything carefully. We did. Every word. Every page. There were no hidden promises. No fake romance. Only two honest people agreeing to help each other through the darkest season of their lives. The judge looked up. Do either of you wish to say anything before signing? I looked at Sophia. I can't promise you a fairy tale. She smiled softly. I'm not asking for one. I can't promise that I'll heal overnight. I won't ask you to. I took a slow breath. But I can promise one thing. She waited. I will never lie to you. 3 weeks passed faster than I expected. If someone had told me that my life could completely change in less than a month, I would have laughed. Yet every morning, I woke up in the same house as Sophia, shared breakfast with her, and slowly learned that honesty could make even the strangest situation feel peaceful. We still slept in separate rooms. We still called our marriage an agreement. But somewhere between our quiet dinners and late-night conversations, I stopped feeling completely broken. One evening, Sophia placed 2 coffee mugs on the kitchen counter and smiled. You've been smiling more. I looked at her. Have I? She nodded. You're finally arguing with me about whose turn it is to wash the dishes. I laughed. I guess that's progress. She pointed at me with a wooden spoon. It definitely is. Before I could answer, my phone vibrated on the table. The caller ID showed Damien Cole. I frowned. Sophia noticed immediately. Everything okay? I answered the call. Hello. Damien's confident voice came through the speaker. Ethan, what do you want? I wanted to personally invite you to tomorrow night's company celebration. I stayed silent. He continued. I'm announcing my engagement. I already knew who he meant. Congratulations. He laughed. That's all. What else should I say? I thought you'd be more emotional. I smiled without humor. I've already spent enough emotions on you. He ignored the comment. The entire executive team will be there. So, I'd hate for you to miss such an important evening. I understood exactly what he was doing. He wasn't inviting me. He was setting a stage. He wanted everyone to watch the man whose fiancé had chosen the boss instead. He wanted my humiliation to become entertainment. I calmly asked, Does Emily know you're calling me? He laughed. It was actually her idea. Those words didn't hurt as much as they would have 3 weeks earlier. Instead, they placed my phone on the kitchen table and let out a long breath. Sophia quietly watched me. She didn't interrupt. She waited. Finally, she asked, Do you want to tell me what you're thinking? I pulled out a chair and sat down. I'm thinking Damien hasn't changed at all. She sat across from me. What do you mean? He isn't inviting me because he wants to celebrate. I looked at her. He wants an audience. And he wants me to be the main attraction. Sophia nodded slowly. He wants to humiliate you. Exactly. She remained quiet for a few moments before asking, Then why are you even considering going? I smiled faintly. Because 3 weeks ago, I would have hidden. And today I don't feel like hiding anymore. She studied my face. You've changed. I've had to. She reached for her coffee. Are you afraid of seeing Emily again? I thought about the question. Then I answered honestly. I'm not afraid of seeing Emily. What scares me is seeing the version of myself who loved her. Sophia looked at me with quiet understanding. That man believed forever meant something. He did. And now? I looked at my wedding ring. Now I know forever only belongs to people who choose each other every day. She smiled gently. I like that answer. A small silence settled between us. Then she suddenly asked, Can I ask something a little awkward? I laughed. After the way we got married, I think awkward stopped existing. She laughed too. Fair point. She leaned forward. If we go tomorrow... I waited. Would you like me to come as your wife? I looked at her, confused. You are my wife. I know. She smiled. But I mean... She searched for the right words. Would you like us to actually arrive together? I understood what she meant. She wasn't talking about pretending. She was asking whether I wanted her beside me. I answered without hesitation. I don't want to face them alone. You won't. Sa invited Dad and Mia into the living room while Sophia disappeared into the kitchen. I'll make some tea, she called. Dad smiled. Thank you, Sophia. A few moments later, she returned with a tray carrying 4 cups. Mia accepted hers first. Thank you. Sophia laughed. I hope you like it. I'm sure I will. The room became quiet for a moment. Finally, Dad looked at me. Ethan, I knew that tone. He wanted the truth. So, he folded his hands together. Tell me everything. I took a slow breath. I will. For nearly an hour, I told them the entire story. I told them about the registry office, about Emily walking in with Damien, about the ring she handed back to me, about wandering through the city without knowing where I was going, about meeting Sophia outside the courthouse, about Grace, about the foundation, about the unexpected proposal, and finally, about the simple ceremony that changed both our lives. When I finished, nobody spoke. Dad looked at Sophia. You marry my son, even though both of you were carrying broken hearts. She nodded quietly. Yes. You didn't lie to him? No. You didn't pressure him? Never. You simply asked for honesty. That's all I wanted. Dad smiled gently. My late wife used to say something. Sophia listened carefully. The strongest marriages don't begin with perfect love. He looked at me. They begin with two honest people who refuse to stop respecting each other. I smiled. Mom said that. He nodded. Many times. Mia suddenly spoke. I like Sophia. We all looked at her. She shrugged. What? Dad laughed. That was fast. She smiled. No. She pointed towards Sophia. She keeps looking at Ethan when he's talking. Sophia looked confused. So, Mia grinned. People only do that when they genuinely care. Sophia's cheeks turned slightly pink. She laughed nervously. I just wanted to make sure he was okay. Dad looked at me. Are you oh? The next evening arrived much faster than I expected. I stood in front of the bedroom mirror, adjusting my dark navy suit for what felt like the 10th time. No matter how many times I straightened my tie, the nervous feeling in my stomach refused to disappear. A soft knock came at the door. Ethan, come in. Sophia stepped inside. For a second, I completely forgot how to speak. She was wearing an elegant white tailored suit with a matching silk blouse, simple diamond earrings, and her wedding ring. Her long dark brown hair rested neatly over one shoulder, and her calm smile somehow made the entire room feel brighter. She laughed quietly. Is something wrong? I smiled. No. She tilted her head. Then why are you staring at me like that? I rubbed the back of my neck. I just realized something. What? You look incredible. A faint blush appeared on her cheeks. Thank you. She looked at me for a moment before smiling. You don't look bad yourself. I laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. The nervousness between us slowly disappeared. She walked closer and gently adjusted my tie. It was slightly crooked. I smiled. I didn't even notice. I know. She stepped back. There. Perfect. I looked at her. You're surprisingly calm. She shrugged. I've argued cases in court. This is only one ballroom. I laughed. I wish I had your confidence. She shook her head. You don't need my confidence. You only need to remember one thing. What? You've done nothing wrong. Those words settled something inside me. For weeks, I had carried invisible guilt, even though I had been the one betrayed. Sophia seemed to understand that without me saying it. She reached into her handbag and carefully removed a slim leather folder. I recognized it immediately. Our marriage certificate. She nodded. I thought it might be useful. I raised an eyebrow. You think they'll question whether we're really Marie? I paused outside the ballroom doors and took one slow breath. Music echoed through the hallway while laughter drifted from inside. Sophia looked at me. Nervous? A little. She smiled. So am I. I look surprised. You hide it well. She laughed softly. That's one of the advantages of being a lawyer. I smiled. Teach me someday. Deal. One of the hotel attendants opened the ballroom doors. The room was filled with sparkling chandeliers, expensive decorations, and hundreds of guests. Almost every executive from the company was there. The moment I stepped inside, several co-workers turned toward me. Whispers spread across the room. Ethan came. I didn't think he would. Where's his wife? I kept walking. Across the ballroom, Damien stood confidently on the stage with Emily beside him. The moment Emily noticed me, a satisfied smile appeared on her face. She leaned toward the microphone. Everyone, the conversations slowly faded. I'd like to thank all of you for celebrating this wonderful evening with Damien and me. Applause filled the room. She smiled proudly. Some people thought today would be difficult for me. She glanced directly at me. But life has a funny way of rewarding the right decisions. A few uncomfortable laughs echoed through the audience. She continued, I've also heard an interesting rumor. She pretended to look around the ballroom. They say Ethan actually got married. More whispers spread through the crowd. Emily laughed lightly. Really? She shook her head. To whoever invented that story, thank you for the entertainment. Damien chuckled beside her. Emily continued, I suppose imaginary wives are easier to find than real ones. Several people looked down, clearly embarrassed by her words. She smiled even wider. So, she looked directly at me. Ethan, does your wife exist anywhere outside your dreams? The room became completely silent. Before I could answer,